Hello everyone. It is my belief that Japanese bikes are better than American bikes. I will prove to you that Japanese bikes are in fact better than American bikes by comparing power, handling, and reliability. For the sake of comparability, I will be comparing bikes from manufacturers that have a similar displacement or engine size. In this case, it's around 1,000 cubic centimeters of displacement. Now, me myself, I love riding motorcycles. While I don't ride a Japanese motorcycle currently, I had one and I had to switch to a much cheaper Chinese bike due to financial reasons. But I still love riding motorcycles, and I think that Japanese motorcycles are the best. Now, my father has been riding since he was my age, and he loves Harleys. He's got 2 Harleys right now, and I think they're beautiful bikes, but I do think that they are not as superior as Japanese bikes. But all in all, I think that I will have an accurate representation of both Harleys and the Japanese bikes to be able to compare them. Now, the problem is that American bikes are slow, unreliable, and handle poorly. So let's talk about power. American bikes, on average, make 55% of the power of a Japanese bike. For example, Harley-Davidson's Sportster S, according to their website, Harley-Davidson's website, only make, out of a 1,252 cubic centimeter engine, only makes 121 horsepower. This means that their horsepower to cubic centimeter displacement ratio will be a 0.097. So remember that number. The Indian's comparable bike, the Indian Scout, according to their website, makes even less power, and their horsepower to cc ratio is a 0.088. But remember, Harley is 0.097. Now, handling. According to motorcycle.com, in review of their Sportster S, they found that it only had about 1.5 inches of suspension travel. And I'll explain to you why this is bad. Imagine going around a corner on your motorcycle and you're leaned over on the side of the tire. Now, as you're going through a corner, all that force is being transferred lateral, which is compressing the suspension. If you were to hit a bump while the suspension was already compressed, your suspension wouldn't have enough travel to keep up and keep that tire stuck to the road. So if you've not got enough suspension travel going through a corner, if you hit a bump, you're going to lose traction and crash. And that's not good. Now also, that lack of suspension travel is bad for comfort. Harley-Davidson's motorcycles, the American motorcycles, often have a pretty relaxed riding position. And while relaxed riding position seems like it would be comfier, it actually puts a lot more stress on your lower back than an aggressive sport bike riding position would be, which is interesting. Now, while a little bit of back pain is one thing, when a rider is uncomfortable or in pain, they're going to be distracted and make poor decisions. So I think that also lends to the lack of handling of American motorcycles. Now, reliability. I'm sure you all know that the name Harley-Davidson is almost synonymous with the term oil leak. Every motorcycle my dad's had has had some sort of oil leaks leaking from the crankcase. Well, that's not a huge issue. It is something to worry about. And Harley-Davidsons also often have tuning issues, so that's a concern. Now, a consumer report that did a study on motorcycle brands on reliability found Harley-Davidson in 6th place, with a 26% failure rate, which is actually behind the top 4 Japanese producers, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda, and Suzuki. And Indians weren't even represented in this study, whether that's because they weren't reliable or because they just weren't considered a big enough brand to mention. So what's the fix? If American bikes are so bad, try a Japanese bike. Let's talk about power. The Yamaha YZF R1 has a displacement of 998 cc's, which is considerably less than both the Harley-Davidson and the Indian. But out of that smaller engine, they're able to make quite a bit more power, 198 horsepower, which is a 63% increase from Harley-Davidson's numbers. This places their horsepower to cc ratio at a 0.198 compared to Harley-Davidson's 0.097, I believe it was. So, handling. The R1, the same bike, has 4.7 inches of travel, according to their website, Yamaha's website. This is a 313% increase from Harley-Davidson's numbers. That's impressive. This increased suspension travel allows the bike to stick to the road much more effectively, ride way comfier, even with the aggressive riding position, and allows riders to corner harder and faster, which means even if they're not cornering at the max, they still have quite a bit of room for safety when riding on the streets. And finally, reliability. That same consumer report mentioned earlier put Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda, and Kawasaki in 1st through 4th respectively. with an 11 to 15% failure rate range. The Yamaha came in first in that study. So this means that Japanese bikes are better and superior in all three categories. So imagine, life with a Japanese motorcycle will give you much better power delivery, insane grip, so much that you don't even have the confidence to explore. No more oil leaks underneath the bike, no more towel to soak it up, and no more shop time while your bike is down because of its unreliability. Life with a Japanese bike will be more comfortable, fun, and fruitful. But some of you will say, well, hey, Japanese bikes appeal to a much different riding style than American bikes do, like Harley Davidson's. Harleys are often cruiser motorcycles, while Japanese bikes are more aggressive, race-oriented motorcycles. So even if you don't like racing down the highway at 186 miles an hour at 3 a.m. in the morning, Japanese producers still make metric cruisers. And while they are not quite as fast as American cruisers, they are still more reliable and handle better than the American cruisers. Or you can get a naked or sport or street bike that's not quite as aggressive as some of the Japanese race bikes. So what if you already have an American bike and now you want a Japanese one? Just sell your American bike. It's all right. There's quite a bit of market, and so you won't actually lose much money reselling that motorcycle. But then I would beg you to do your research. Not all Japanese bikes are created equal. Some will be a lot better than others, and some will be not quite as great. Some will be more powerful, while others, like the metric cruisers, the Japanese cruisers, won't quite live up to the Japanese name. But what's an American bike? Are Harley Davidsons even American anymore? Well, according to an article on Timeless Two Wheels, Harley Davidson contracts parts to be manufactured from various factories around the world, in places like Germany, Taiwan, Japan, Mexico, and Italy. This means that Harley Davidsons, while they're assembled in the US, contract most of their parts out to places that actually make other brand motorcycles. Germany and Austria, for example, make KTMs, which have grown in reliability and power. Taiwan and Japan are suppliers for most of the Japanese motorcycle market. And Italy supplies motorcycle parts for a lot of the European motorcycles out there, such as Ducati, which is right out of Italy. So most of these Harley Davidson's parts aren't even American anymore. But if I still haven't managed to convince you, I beg you to let the bike convince you. Just try a Japanese bike. Go to a dealer or a renter and go for a test ride, or borrow a friend's Japanese bike, and I convince you. One twist of that throttle on, say, an R1 or an H2, and you will have all the convincing that you need. Thank you for letting me speak.